The massive Imperial warship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its dark hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Inside the ship's command center, Imperial Commander Rex stood tall, his silver uniform gleaming under the bright lights as he watched the small blue planet on the main screen. "Another primitive world for the Empire," he said, his voice filled with boredom. "Send the standard first contact message." The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds over the centuries. Their routine never changed. Arrive, demand surrender, and add another planet to their vast collection. This time would be no different, or so they thought. Within hours, Earth responded, not with fear or confusion, but with a precisely coordinated message. A sleek human vessel, small by Imperial standards but impressively advanced, approached the Imperial flagship. Its design surprised Rex. It was far more sophisticated than expected from a species that had only recently achieved spaceflight. Admiral White, Earth's chosen representative, stood on the bridge of his ship, the Peacekeeper. He was an older man with gray hair and steel in his eyes, chosen for his diplomatic experience and military background. The first contact meeting was set aboard the Imperial vessel. The meeting chamber was designed to intimidate, with towering ceilings and massive viewports showing the vastness of space. Commander Rex sat on an elevated platform, looking down at Admiral White and his small team. "Your species will submit to Imperial rule," Rex announced without preamble. "Your technology level qualifies you for Category 3 integration. You will surrender your military assets and accept Imperial governors." Admiral White remained calm, his hands clasped behind his back. "Commander, we've studied your Empire's history through your public broadcasts. We understand you've never faced serious resistance before. This is why I must warn you. Humanity is different." Rex laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber. "Different? We've heard that before. Every species thinks they're special." "You misunderstand," White continued, his voice steady. "We're not threatening you. We're warning you. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting itself. We've developed warfare to an art form. Even when we made peace among ourselves, we never stopped preparing for war." "Amusing," Rex sneered. "Your species hasn't even unified its planet completely. What threat could you pose to the Empire?" White pulled out a small device and projected a hologram. It showed scenes from Earth's history, world wars, nuclear tests, modern combat simulations, and space defense systems. "This is a small sample of our military capability," White explained. "We've had nuclear weapons for over 70 years. We've developed stealth technology, drone warfare, and artificial intelligence combat systems. Our video games are more tactically sophisticated than your actual battle plans." The Imperial officers watching began to whisper among themselves. Some of the weapons systems they saw were unknown to them. The Empire had grown so used to easy victories that many forms of warfare had been forgotten. Rex stood up, his face flushed with anger. "Enough of this posturing. You have 24 hours to surrender, or we will take your world by force. Your precious weapons will mean nothing against our numbers." Admiral White's expression changed from diplomatic calm to something harder, more resolute. "Commander Rex, I came here hoping to establish peaceful relations. Instead, I'll leave you with one final warning. We've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war against ourselves. Imagine what we'll do to an outside threat." As White turned to leave, Rex called out, "You'll regret this defiance. The Empire has never been defeated." White stopped at the doorway and looked back. "There's an old saying on Earth. There's a first time for everything. We warned you to run, Commander. Remember that when the time comes." Back on Earth, the Global Defense Council gathered immediately. Within hours, evacuation protocols were activated, military assets were mobilized, and humanity's real technology, far more advanced than what they had shown the Empire, was brought out of hidden bunkers and orbital facilities. As Admiral White watched Earth prepare for war from his command center, his aide asked, "Do you think they'll actually attack, sir?" "They will," White replied, looking at the Imperial ship through the window. "They're too proud not to. But for the first time in their history, they'll learn what it means to face an enemy who has spent its entire existence preparing for this moment." He turned to his communications officer. "Send the code word to all commands. Prometheus. It's time to show the Empire why we warned them to run." Imperial General Marcus stood proudly on his command ship's bridge, watching his massive fleet emerge from hyperspace. 5,000 warships filled the space around Earth's solar system, their weapons primed and ready. It was the largest fleet ever sent for a simple planetary conquest. "Status report," Marcus commanded, his voice full of confidence. "Sir, human forces are retreating from their outer colonies," his officer reported. "Their ships are falling back to Earth, just as expected." Marcus smiled. Commander Rex had been worried about nothing. These humans were running away, just like every other species they had conquered. The general activated the fleet-wide communication system. "Begin the standard conquest pattern. Take their colonies first, then push toward their homeworld. Show them the might of our empire." The Imperial fleet moved forward, their huge ships easily occupying Mars, the lunar bases, and several space stations. But something felt wrong. Each human facility they captured was completely empty. No people, no resources, and strangely, no important technology. "Sir," a junior officer called out, "we've lost contact with Supply Group 7. Marcus frowned. "Probably just communication interference. Send Group 8 to check on them." Hours passed. Group 8 never reported back. In the following days, more Imperial ships began disappearing. Small groups at first, then entire squadrons. Always from the rear of the fleet, always without any distress signals. The Empire's mighty armada was being picked apart piece by piece. "General," an officer shouted, "multiple ships reporting system failures. Our computers are acting strangely." Before Marcus could respond, the main screen lit up with a transmission. Admiral White's face appeared, but he looked different now. Gone was the diplomatic smile, replaced by the stern expression of a warrior. "General Marcus," White said calmly, "I see you've noticed some of our welcoming gifts. Those empty bases you've been capturing. They're not abandoned. They're bait." Suddenly, alarms blared across the Imperial fleet. Hundreds of small objects appeared on their sensors, emerging from hidden positions in asteroid fields and seemingly empty space. They were ships, but unlike any the Empire had seen before. Small, fast, and virtually invisible to their standard scanners. "You see, General," White continued, "while your empire was busy conquering peaceful worlds, humanity was preparing for war. Those colonies you so easily captured, each one is a trap, filled with self-replicating nanoswarms that are currently eating through your ship's hulls." Marcus watched in horror as reports flooded in. 20 ships lost. 50. 100. The nanoswarms were unstoppable, turning captured Imperial ships into more raw material for more swarms. "Full retreat," Marcus ordered, but it was too late. The small human ships struck with shocking precision. They didn't just fire weapons. They hacked Imperial systems, turned ships against each other, and disappeared before the Empire could respond. Centuries of peaceful expansion had made the Empire's cybersecurity weak and outdated. "You should have listened to our warning." White's voice came again. "This is just our first demonstration. These are only our defensive systems, General. We haven't even started fighting back yet." Marcus watched helplessly as his mighty fleet fell into chaos. Ships firing on their allies, systems failing, and hull breaches spreading like a virus through his formation. Of the 5,000 ships he arrived with, barely 3,000 remained operational. "Fall back to safe distance," he commanded. "Regroup at the outer system boundary." As the Imperial fleet retreated in disarray, Admiral White sent one final message. "Consider this a lesson, General. You thought our empty colonies meant we were running away. We were simply moving civilians to safety and preparing the battlefield. The real war hasn't even begun. Back on his flagship, now safely out of range, General Marcus drafted his report to Imperial High Command. His hand shook as he wrote, "Humans are not retreating. They are hunting. Request immediate reinforcements. These humans, they fight like nothing we've ever seen. They don't just wage war. They redefine it." In Earth's military command center, Admiral White watched the Imperial fleet's retreat with grim satisfaction. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Phase 1 complete. Begin Operation Ghost Fleet." The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the Empire why they should have run when they had the chance. The Imperial war room buzzed with nervous energy as reports from the front lines kept coming in. General Marcus stood before the Empire's highest military command, trying to explain the unexplainable. "Our ships keep disappearing," he said, pointing to the holographic map. "We've lost contact with 30 patrol fleets in the last week alone. It's like they vanish into thin air." High Commander Banks slammed his fist on the table. "Impossible. Nothing can hide from our sensors." Just then, the giant screen behind them crackled to life. A new fleet appeared on their scanners. Hundreds of ships seemingly materializing out of nowhere around one of their major supply bases near Mars. "Ghost Fleet, this is Admiral Smith. All ships, weapons free. Show them what humanity can do." The human ships moved like nothing the Empire had ever seen. They phased in and out of view, their stealth systems making them appear like shadows dancing among the stars. Imperial sensors couldn't lock onto them. As soon as they detected one ship, it vanished, only to appear somewhere else. By the stars, Marcus whispered, watching the battle unfold. "They've mastered quantum phasing technology. The Imperial base never stood a chance." Human ships slipped through their defensive screens like they weren't even there. Their weapons weren't just powerful, they were precise. Instead of destroying the base entirely, they surgically disabled its key systems, captured its supplies, and vanished again, taking everything valuable with them. In Earth's Strategic Command Center, Admiral Smith watched the operation with satisfaction. The wall of screens showed multiple battles happening across the solar system. Each human ship was controlled by a combination of elite crews and advanced AI systems, allowing them to react faster than any Imperial vessel. "Report from Ghost Squadron 7, an officer announced. "Another successful raid. That's the 15th Imperial supply line we've cut this week." Smith nodded. "Send in the Wraith units next. Let's show them Phase 2. Across the battlefield, new human ships emerged. These were different, smaller, faster, and completely autonomous. Swarms of AI-controlled fighters that could think and adapt in real time. They moved in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually part of a complex battle dance, one that Imperial computers couldn't predict." On his flagship, General Marcus watched in horror as the Wraith units tore through his defensive lines. "How are they doing this?" "Their technology. It's impossible." His answer came in the form of another transmission. This time, it was Admiral White himself. "Wondering how we got so advanced, General." White's calm voice filled the command center. "While your empire spent centuries collecting peaceful worlds, humanity was preparing for the worst. Every science fiction story we wrote, every space battle we imagined, we turned them into reality. We built weapons to fight enemies we hadn't even met yet, because we knew that somewhere out there, someone would eventually try to conquer us." The demonstration continued as human forces systematically dismantled Imperial defenses across the solar system. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just winning. They were teaching the Empire a lesson in modern warfare. "Your ships are powerful," White continued, "but they're designed to fight traditional battles. We don't fight traditionally. Every tactic you know, we've already simulated thousands of times. Every strategy you try, we've already countered in our war games." The Empire's mighty defense fleet, once 5,000 strong, was now reduced to barely 1,000 operational ships. Not through direct destruction, but through a complex web of surgical strikes, disabled systems, and captured resources. Back in the war room, Marcus received the final casualty reports. "We've lost control of the entire outer solar system," he reported grimly. "The humans, they're not just pushing us back. They're hunting us down." High Commander Banks finally understood the gravity of their situation. "Send word to the Imperial capital," he ordered. "Request immediate deployment of the main fleet. All of it." In Earth's command center, Admiral Smith watched the Imperial ships retreat once again. "They're calling for their main fleet," he reported to White. White smiled grimly. "Good. That's exactly what we wanted. Begin final preparations for Operation Thunderstorm. It's time to show them what happens when humanity really goes to war." The Ghost Fleet vanished once again, leaving the Empire to wonder where they would strike next. But this time, humanity wasn't planning to just strike. They were preparing to take the fight to the Empire's doorstep. The darkness of space lit up as 500,000 Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace. The main fleet had arrived, led by the Empire's most powerful weapon, the Planet Killer, a massive ship capable of destroying entire worlds. Grand Admiral Stone, the Empire's most decorated commander, stood on the bridge of his flagship. His orders were simple: crush the humans, no matter the cost. "Deploy the Planet Killer," Stone commanded. "Let's see how their Ghost Fleet handles this." The Planet Killer moved forward, its massive cannon charging. The weapon had ended wars before it even fired. Most species surrendered at the mere sight of it. But the humans weren't like most species. Admiral White's voice came through on all frequencies. "I was wondering when you'd bring out the big guns. Now let us show you ours." Suddenly, hundreds of small objects appeared around the Planet Killer. The Empire's sensors identified them as simple satellites. Stone laughed. "This is their response. Satellites against a Planet Killer." His laughter died as the satellites activated. They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they created a web of quantum fields, connecting to each other. Before the Empire could react, the Planet Killer's main cannon began to power down. "Impossible," Stone shouted. "What's happening?" "On Earth's command ship," Admiral White explained. "Those aren't just satellites. They're quantum field generators. We're not blocking your weapon. We're redirecting its energy into a pocket dimension. Fire it if you want, but the energy will just disappear into void space." Stone's face turned red with rage. "All ships, open fire. Full bombardment." The Imperial fleet released its full fury. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward Earth. But they met another surprise: a planetary shield unlike anything the Empire had seen before. "Did you think we wouldn't have defenses ready?" White's voice was calm. "We've had planetary shield technology for decades. We just kept it hidden, waiting for someone like you." Then came humanity's counterattack. From Earth's orbit, massive rings began to power up, jump gates that the Empire hadn't detected before. Through them poured humanity's main battle fleet. These weren't the stealthy ships of the Ghost Fleet. These were humanity's war machines, built for direct combat. Each ship was piloted by neural-linked crews, their minds connected to their ship's AI systems, allowing them to react at impossible speeds. "Target their command ships," Admiral White ordered. "Show them what real space warfare looks like." The human fleet moved with devastating precision. Their ships didn't just fire weapons. They predicted where Imperial ships would be, firing at empty space that enemies would occupy seconds later. The neural-linked pilots worked in perfect harmony with their AI systems, making decisions faster than any organic crew could manage. Stone watched in horror as his fleet's formation broke apart. In just 1 hour, he had lost 50,000 ships, not to superior numbers, but to superior tactics and technology. "My lord," his second-in-command reported, "their weapons, they're not just destroying our ships. They're disabling them, taking them intact." Indeed, human forces were systematically capturing Imperial vessels. Boarding parties of power-armored soldiers cut through Imperial defenses like they weren't there. Each captured ship was quickly reprogrammed, and turned against its former allies. Stone's mighty armada was being dismantled piece by piece. The planet killer, their ultimate weapon, hung useless in space, its main cannon still trapped in the quantum field web. "Send the signal," Stone finally ordered, his voice shaking. "Call the second and third main fleets. Call them all." Admiral White's response was immediate. "You still don't understand, do you? We wanted you to call your other fleets. Look behind you." Stone turned to his rear view screen. There, emerging from stealth, was the Ghost Fleet. While his forces had been focused on the front battle, humanity's stealth ships had positioned themselves behind the Imperial fleet. They were trapped. "Last chance, Admiral Stone," White offered. "Surrender your forces, or we'll be forced to demonstrate our full capabilities. And trust me, you haven't seen anything yet." In Earth's command center, White turned to his staff. "Begin charging the Sol system defense grid. If they want to see what humanity can really do in a war, we'll show them." The real battle was about to begin, and the Empire was about to learn why they should have heeded humanity's warning to run. Operation Thunderstorm began with a flash that lit up the entire solar system. The Sol defense grid, humanity's greatest weapon, activated for the first time. Massive energy collectors around the sun powered up, channeling the star's energy into humanity's war machine. Admiral Jones stood on the bridge of Earth's new flagship, the Humanity's Vengeance, watching as the Empire's trapped fleet tried to break free. "All ships, this is Admiral Jones," his voice carried across the human fleet. "Operation Thunderstorm is now active. Show them why Earth remained unconquered for all our history." The Sol defense grid fired, not with simple energy beams or missiles, but with weaponized wormholes. Portals opened throughout the Imperial fleet, cutting ships in half, teleporting sections of their armada into deep space. Grand Admiral Stone watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by forces he couldn't even understand. What kind of demons are these humans? His answer came as the first wave of human assault ships burst through their own micro-wormholes, appearing inside the Imperial formation. These weren't normal soldiers. They were humanity's elite space marines, wearing powered armor suits that made them look like walking tanks. "Sir," Stone's officer screamed, "they're boarding our ships through the walls. They're using personal teleporters." Inside the Imperial ships, the Space Marines were unstoppable. Their armor wasn't just for protection. It was a complete combat system. Each suit had its own AI, medical systems, and enough firepower to level a small city. Back on the Humanity's Vengeance, Admiral Jones watched the battle unfold. "Launch the swarm," he ordered. From Earth's orbital stations, millions of small drones deployed. Each one was barely larger than a human hand, but together they formed a massive cloud of destruction. The drones linked their quantum computers together, becoming a single, massive artificial intelligence. "Your Empire thought we were primitive," Jones transmitted to the Imperial fleet. "But while you were conquering peaceful worlds, we were preparing for the worst. Everything you see here, we built it because we were afraid something like your Empire might exist." The drone swarm surrounded Imperial ships, cutting through their hulls with molecular blades, disabling their systems with electromagnetic pulses, and transforming their own metal into more drones. Stone's mighty fleet was now caught between three unstoppable forces: the Sol defense grid's wormhole weapons, the Space Marines' internal attacks, and the endless drone swarm. "Sound the retreat," Stone ordered. "Get us out of here." But retreat wasn't possible. The human fleet had positioned quantum field generators throughout the battle space. Imperial ships couldn't enter hyperspace. They were trapped. "Now," Admiral Jones announced, "we take the fight to you." The Humanity's Vengeance powered up its main drive, a massive engine that bent space itself. Around it, the entire human fleet prepared for their first faster-than-light jump using Earth's secret technology. "You've seen what we can do in our own solar system," Jones transmitted. "Now see what we can do in yours." The human fleet vanished, not using the Empire's predictable hyperspace lanes, but through their own dimension-shifting technology. They reappeared near one of the Empire's core worlds, bypassing all their defensive lines. In the Imperial capital, panic spread as reports came in. Earth forces had appeared simultaneously at 12 core worlds, their technology completely ignoring the Empire's most powerful defenses. Grand Admiral Stone received the final casualty reports from the Sol system battle. Of his 500,000 ships, less than 50,000 remained operational. The Empire's greatest fleet had been decimated. "Send the message to all commands," Stone ordered, his voice hollow. "The humans, they're not just fighting back. They're coming for us all." On the Humanity's vengeance, Admiral Jones prepared for the next phase. "Send word to Earth. Operation Thunderstorm is complete. Begin Operation Endgame." The human fleet moved through Imperial space like unstoppable ghosts, their ships appearing and disappearing at will. They weren't just winning battles, they were dismantling an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. "We warned them to run," Jones said quietly, watching another Imperial world's defenses fall. "Now they'll understand why." The Imperial Palace on Capital World shook as another human attack wave struck the planetary shields. Emperor Vale stood at his grand window, watching his empire crumble. In just 2 weeks, humanity had captured 30 core worlds. Now they had reached the heart of the empire itself. "My Emperor," Grand Admiral Stone knelt, his uniform torn and dirty from recent battles. "The humans have surrounded the entire system. They're using technology we've never seen before." The Emperor turned, his face dark with rage. "How? How did we not know they were this powerful?" The answer came from the palace's communication system, as all screens lit up with Admiral White's face. "Because, Emperor Vale, we learned long ago to hide our true strength. Your empire has ruled through fear, showing its power to everyone. We humans learned to keep our power hidden until it was truly needed." Outside, the sky turned bright as Earth's massive fleet appeared, not through normal space, but through thousands of artificial wormholes. Leading them was the Humanity's Vengeance, now joined by its sister ships, Earth's Fury and Terra's Judgment. The remaining Imperial fleet, nearly 1,000,000 ships gathered for this final defense, moved to protect their capital. But they had already lost. They just didn't know it yet. "One last chance," Admiral White offered. "Surrender your empire, and we'll show mercy. Continue fighting, and we'll be forced to demonstrate our final weapon." Emperor Vale laughed. "You think you can threaten us? This is the Imperial capital. Our shields have never fallen. Our defenses have never failed." "Very well," White replied calmly. "Admiral Jones, you may proceed with Protocol Omega." In space, the 3 human flagship vessels moved into a triangle formation. Energy beams connected them, forming a perfect triangle of light. Inside this triangle, space itself began to twist. "By all the stars," Stone whispered, "they're creating an artificial quantum singularity." The human fleet's true power became clear. They weren't just bending space. They were rewriting the laws of physics themselves. The quantum singularity grew, its gravitational pull carefully controlled to affect only Imperial ships and defenses. Emperor Vale watched in horror as his mighty fleet was pulled apart, not by weapons, but by the very fabric of space turning against them. The carefully controlled singularity pulled Imperial ships into a tight mass, while leaving human vessels untouched. "Impossible," Vale shouted. "No species can control gravity itself." "Wrong," White responded. "No species you've met before. We humans spent centuries preparing for threats from space. Every science fiction story, every wild theory, we turned them into reality. While you conquered peaceful worlds, we built weapons that could destroy solar systems." The Imperial Palace's shields flickered and died as specialized human ships landed on the surface. From them emerged not soldiers, but simple humans in powered armor, walking calmly through the chaos. Stone drew his weapon, but it was useless. The humans' personal shields simply absorbed any energy fired at them. They walked through walls using personal phase shifters, bypassed security using AI hackers, and disabled whole defense systems with electromagnetic pulses. In less than an hour, they reached the throne room. Admiral White himself stepped through the grand doors, now flanked by Space Marines. He looked at Emperor Vale not with hatred, but with disappointment. "We warned you," White said simply. "From the very first day, we warned you to run. Instead, you chose war with a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for this exact moment." Vale slumped in his throne. "What happens now?" Now, White looked out at the capital city, where human ships were already landing in peace formation. "Now we show you something your empire never learned: mercy." The Emperor looked up in surprise. "We won't destroy your empire," White continued. "We'll help you transform it. Your people deserve better than living in fear. We'll teach you what humanity learned long ago, that true strength comes not from conquering others, but from working together." As the human forces secured the capital, Admiral White sent one final message to Earth: "Operation Endgame complete. The war is over. We didn't just defeat the Empire. We're going to help them become better." The Empire's last stand had ended not with destruction, but with the promise of a new beginning. Humanity had proved itself the most powerful species in the galaxy, not just through superior weapons, but through the wisdom to use that power wisely. 1 year after the Empire's surrender, the former Imperial Palace buzzed with activity. Where once stood symbols of absolute power, now sat the chambers of the new Galactic Council. Representatives from every world, including former Imperial planets and Earth colonies, gathered for the historic First Assembly. Admiral White, now serving as Earth's primary representative, walked through the renovated halls. Beside him, former Emperor Vale, now just Counselor Vale, looked at the changes with wonder. "I still can't believe how much has changed," Vale said, watching alien species freely mixing with humans and former Imperial citizens. "You could have destroyed us all, yet you chose to help us rebuild instead." White smiled. "That's the final lesson humanity learned from our own history. True victory isn't about destruction. It's about building something better from the ashes of conflict." The main council chamber was a marvel of combined technology. Human quantum communication systems allowed instant connection with thousands of worlds. Former Imperial architecture blended seamlessly with Earth's advanced displays and holographic systems. High above the chamber, through the transparent dome, ships from hundreds of worlds moved peacefully through the sky. Human vessels with their advanced drives flew alongside reformed Imperial ships, now part of a joint defense fleet. "The Council is ready to begin," announced the Chamber's AI system, another gift from Earth's technology. White took his place at the speaker's podium, facing representatives from over 10,000 worlds. The session began with a ceremony that would be remembered for generations. 1 year ago, White began, "We stood here as enemies. Today, we gather as allies, partners, and friends. The former empire has completed its transformation into the Galactic Federation, where every world has a voice." Screens around the chamber showed the progress. Former Imperial worlds now flourished with new technology shared by Earth. Human medical advances had improved lives across the galaxy. The same quantum technology that had won the war now connected worlds in peace. But most importantly, White continued, "We've all learned from each other. Humanity has shared its advancements, yes, but we've also gained wisdom from every world in this federation. We're stronger together than we ever were apart." Vale stood to speak next. "As someone who once thought strength came only from power over others, I can testify to how wrong I was. The humans could have ruled us through force. Instead, they showed us a better way." The chamber erupted in applause as White and Vale shook hands, a gesture that symbolized the new era of cooperation. Later that day, in one of the capital's new education centers, a young alien student raised their hand during a history lesson. Teacher, why didn't the humans just conquer us like the Empire tried to conquer them? The teacher, a joint instructor team of both human and former Imperial educators, smiled at the question. They pulled up a holographic display showing the famous first meeting between Admiral White and Commander Rex. Because humans learned something in their long history that the Empire had forgotten. The teacher explained. They learned that the strongest civilizations aren't built on fear or conquest, but on cooperation and mutual respect. The lesson continued, showing scenes from the brief but decisive war. But unlike traditional Imperial war records that glorify conquest, these lessons focused on what came after: the rebuilding, the sharing of knowledge, the formation of new friendships between former enemies. Back in the council chamber, White concluded the day's session with words that would be remembered through history. We warned the Empire to run not because we wanted to destroy them, but because we knew war would force us to show our full strength. Now we can focus on showing something far more important: our capacity to build, to heal, and to unite. As the session ended, White looked out at the capital city. Human ships flew alongside alien vessels. Children from 100 worlds played in parks built with Earth's terraform technology. Medical centers staffed by mixed species teams saved lives using combined knowledge from across the galaxy. Was it worth it? Vale asked, joining him at the window. White nodded, watching a group of former Imperial children learning about Earth's history from a human teacher. Every war we fought in our history taught us something, White replied. But our greatest victory wasn't defeating the Empire. It was turning an enemy into a friend. The sun set on the capital world, its light reflecting off ships and buildings that represented not just one species' power, but the combined strength of a united galaxy. Humanity had proved itself the strongest civilization in space, not through its weapons, but through its wisdom to know when to set those weapons aside. The war was over. A new chapter had begun.